We're back at Harding University in Searcy where they're remodeling their buildings as well as their trees. We're going to catch up with Ed Dickey in just a moment, so stick around, won't you?
You know, some trees have insect problems, some just have construction damage. Well, we can handle them both generally at the same time. I'm using a soil injection here, building a mold of chemicals all around the root ball. It gets translocated into the crown of the tree. It has a very long residual. Stays working for a year or better, killing insects as well as growing new feeder roots and increasing the canopy of the tree. 9 different chemicals is going in this at once. So there's so much we can do that we used to couldn't do, and it's in most cases it's cheaper than it used to be. And just name me just any one thing that's come down in price. Well, taking care of your trees have come down in price. Give us a call. You'll be surprised. We're the Tree Doctor, Dickey Tree Service, in your yellow pages under trees.
Let's go out in the field with the head tree doctor of Dickey Tree Service, Ed Dickey, right now on Tree Doctors.
I'd like to clarify what I use when I paint these big old cavities like this. Normally I just use a camouflage paint like the duck hunters use, but the reason why on top of the concrete I use a pruning and tree wound dressing, it's got an asphalt base. So what it does, it kind of adheres better to the concrete. It stands the weather a little better and just seems to work better. And I like the looks of it a little better. If I could also go back behind this and paint this with camouflage paint if I chose to, and I do that sometimes. But that's what initially goes on, is the pruning and tree wound dressing. And it's just a liquid asphalt base contact spray, and it works. I'm here in Tuckerman. Here with me is the superintendent of the Jackson County Schools, Chester Shannon. And Chester, you wasn't here last week after I got this done, but you're looking at it now. What do you think of this cavity work?
Well, I think it looks great, especially the way that it looked and the shape that the tree was in. And when I came by, I thought it looked neat on blending that in, and it's not as noticeable as what it was with the white concrete. So it looks great.
Yes, sir. And I told the viewers on the program last week about them extra bracing rods I put in just so that one never slipped down. So it'll be with it from now on.
Well, when we looked at it, we wanted had this magnificent oak tree over here, but it's over my office. It's over the power lines. It could probably reach the house across the street. And so to get rid of it, it's going to have to be somebody insured and bonded. And so when we looked at it, after speaking with you and thinking we could save this tree, I thought, hey, it's just as cheap to do that and keep a great tree here that really looks nice and not remove it.
Right, and in the long run, it's going to save you a lot of money on utility bills, isn't it?
I think so. I think we got a lot of shade here, and it sits over here on the west side of my building, and we didn't want to lose it, but we were getting a little afraid of the condition that the tree was in with storms and ice and different things that we had here over the last couple of years.
I don't know if you noticed when we cleaned it out, but we hauled off about a truckload of debris from inside that thing.
I could not believe how big that cavity was in that tree. It was just unbelievable how much you guys took out of there.
But we wanted to fix it right, and there's another tree here I treated for you on the other side of the office. If you don't mind, we'll walk over and talk about it.
Sure.
Mr. Shannon, we're over here on the other side of your building, and you was asking me on the way over here how old this tree is. How old do you think it is?
I would say somewhere in possibly neighborhood of 100 years old.
I believe you're right. It is a big one, isn't it?
It sure is. It's a grand old tree, and it's here on the east side of our administration building, and it really keeps it cool here.
Yes, sir, and it didn't have quite as bad a problem as the other one with the cavity, but it did have borers in it, and Mr. Shannon had me treat it for that. And years to come, I think you're going to be proud you got both of these trees.
Well, it's these trees are so rare, to have them here and to neglect them and lose them, you know, would be a sad thing. So it really sets our campus off, and to have 2 trees of this size here, so you know, we wanted to keep them if we possibly could.
Yes, sir. How many years you been superintendent here with the school?
This is going on my 5th year.
I noticed while I was here doing this work, you've got a lot of work going on here on the campus, don't you?
We've got a lot of construction. We just finished up 5 buildings, and we're doing some major renovation this summer, and projects that'll probably go on into January of this school year. So we've had a lot going on.
Right. Well, you sure got a pretty school, and you can tell you're proud of your grounds because you really take care of it well here.
Well, we tried to. We you know, we dedicate a lot of people to that, keeping it mowed and keeping it landscaped, and we've done a lot of landscaping, and you know, keeping trees like this here is something that we wanted to do and keep them in good health.
Well, I appreciate you talking about your trees, and we'll visit back here in a couple of years and make sure they're still doing good.
I appreciate that, and I'm glad I caught you in town.
Thank you. This is a tip I hope everyone will take, because putting all this wire on trees is not good. And they've gone from wire to a 1/4-inch cable. And if I'm not mistaken, this is aircraft cable, so it's extremely tough cable. And you can see how tight it's already got. It's going to be extremely difficult to, you know, get it off there unless you take a cutting torch to cut it. It's already trying to grow in the tree right here. And before that, they had another one on that was a twisted type piece of wire. So it's best not to get that wire wrapped around your tree to start with. But if you insist on using a wire on your tree, try using a lag bolt or something that you screw in the tree and then you hook your wire on it. Worst case scenario, the lag bolt will straighten out if need be, if the tree gets too big, as opposed to it choking it out and girdering it and killing your tree. So remember that when you're putting something on your tree, there's a right way and there's a wrong way. Don't do it the wrong way. I'm here right outside of Batesville, and here with me is David McKinney. And David, why don't you tell the viewers what's going on with your trees when you call them in?
I just realized I had borers. Apparently they'd been there for a while, and I was real concerned because when I bought this property a few years ago, it was right after an ice storm, and I worked awfully hard. The property hadn't been picked up in 3.5 years when I bought it, and I've been working hard to get it cleaned up. And I was just heartbroken because I really liked this tree in particular. It just spoke to me when I had the property, and a couple of big ones up on the front that I really like. And as we looked around, I think you may remember we had I believe 4 trees that needed treating, and anyway, you're the man to call, so I made the call.
Yes, sir. We got those took care of, and what I found interesting while I was here with David is that this is a new shop he built here, and what goes on in that shop?
Well, this is the workshop, or kind of, it's my dream, I guess. It's where I build mountain dulcimers. I'm a luthier, and my practice is completely limited anymore to building mountain dulcimers. I use the brand name Modern Mountain Dulcimer, and I'm real proud of it. We sell them all over the country and in Europe and around the world. I have them in Australia and France and England and all over the United States.
Off camera, you had told me when I was here treating your trees about the importance of the right wood and stuff and all of that, and if you don't care, we'll follow you in your shop here and we'll just talk a little bit about that.
Well, that'll be fine with me. I love to show off what I do.
All right. Okay, David, what are we looking at here?
This is the area where I make book matches out of all the pieces of wood. It's a board starts off, and we saw it in 2 real thin, and we edge glue it together, and that way the density of the wood is correct all through, or even on both sides, so that the harmonics of the instrument really it vibrates right and evenly on each side here. But every part of a modern mountain dulcimer is book matched. The sides are book matched, the back's book matched, the soundboard. This is a soundboard right here, and I have a number of them already completed. Here, this one's finished down to 120 grit paper, and it'll go down to about 240. And it's got a long way to go there.
What kind of wood is this, David?
This is California redwood. It's a particularly good tone wood. Different woods vibrate in a very different way. California redwood is a particularly good soundboard material. I use Paulownia, Sitka spruce, western red cedar, and I don't use it much anymore, but it's, I've lost the name of that, sassafras. Is used by a lot of people. It's really attractive to look at, but you just can't hardly beat this California redwood or the Sitka spruce.
Right, it's quite expensive wood too to get the right grain, isn't it?
Well, yes, sir. This board, I just made a trip to Houston to buy wood, and I bought an 18-foot long 2x10, and I believe it was $360 plus tax for that one board. It came down to about $30 for each little 2x4 that I got that was 32 inches long.
David, you got some lined up here. Won't you tell the viewers exactly what we're looking at?
This is the form that I put the body, I call this the body of the instrument, together in. The sides have been pre-bent. I've taken the oriented, book-matched parts and bent them correctly and put the head and the tail piece on, king brace in the middle, and then...
On these bends, let me ask you a question. How do you do this? Is this done with heat?
Yes, sir. I have, there are two ways to do it. I have a machine that'll do a side in 20 minutes with no help from me whatsoever. Then I do it, I'm also, I guess, somewhat of an expert at doing it the old-fashioned way, and I have a really great bender over here that my dad made for me. He was a machinist. It's very simple, but it uses a propane torch and a real heavy piece of steel that's heated up, and I can bend them in any shape you want a lot quicker, but it's very interactive. I have to work there and stay with it. The machine bends them automatically. I get out one complete bend every hour, and I have to do 1 minute of work to do it, so I use the machine.
Okay. All right, let's move on down a little bit here.
This is one of my instruments. Doesn't have the top or fretboard on it, soundboard or fretboard, but this one will have two soundboards, one in the back here. This is kind of a resonator back or cover over the back, and there will be a soundboard on here. And this would be an example of something similar. Still, this one doesn't have a head on it. We'll look at one that's finished here in just a minute. But this is a soundboard, and it's a hard, high-density soundboard, and it'll be a little brighter sounding. It has a Sitka spruce soundboard in the back, and then a nice book match. Got a drop of sweat on that a while ago. But that'll be a really pretty instrument there once it's finished. It also has a pickup in it, so if you want to play rock and roll with a band or just heat up your acoustic sound a little bit, you can plug it in.
So you're telling me that once used to be a tree, now it's going to be an instrument, it's going to play some rock and roll maybe?
Well, I don't know about that. I hope it'll stick with, old time.
But it will play it, won't it?
It will.
We'll move down here to one that you got finished.
This is, I can't afford my own work. A lot of artists are that way, but I've grown so fond of this one. It's a rosewood, and I actually know the history of this particular piece of wood from this tree. This piece of wood came from India, and it came from a tea orchard, and it was used for shade, and then it got too big for the shade for the workers and for the tea, and it got too big, and they had to cut it down, and they used it for firewood and for an export product. And as you can see, it's just about as pretty a piece of wood.
Oh, that is very lovely. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's almost in tune. That's a baritone voiced instrument, and a lot of people like maple, curly maple, and this is a curly maple dulcimer, and it kind of shows off the curl or the tiger stripe to it.
Is that your own?
No, that's just a Celtic cross, and that's in a number of folk instruments, but it's just my version of it and how I do it. Modern mountain dulcimers use a peg head so that the strings go straight into the machines, and these are real high-geared machine heads.
Is all dulcimers a three-string instrument?
The dulcimer is a three-stringed instrument. There are 4 equal distant, 3 equal distant, and then there's a double melody coursed dulcimer that's very popular. But I'm a proponent of the 3 equal or 4 equal distant dulcimer. And this is ebony. It comes from Gabon in Africa. Occasionally I build a dulcimer that has wood from every continent in the world in it except for Antarctica. And they don't have any wood down there, but I have it from Australia, Asia, Europe.
So different trees from around the whole planet.
That's right.
So if anybody wanted to contact you about these, you're right here in Batesville. And of course, you don't make very many local sales. Most of yours are all over the world, aren't they?
Yes, sir. You can visit my website, which is modernmountaindulcimer.com. And I have a lot of hits from all over the world. It'd be nice to have some from Region 8 here.
Well, I guarantee they will be. And I appreciate you taking the time to tell our viewers about the dulcimer, and also about me letting me treat your trees. But we'll visit back later and look at your trees, and we'll see how your dulcimer sales is going. One other thing, how long have you been in business here?
Well, this is a new shop for me. I've just finished it last year and just got moved in, but I've been doing this my 12th year, and I'm getting up to where I can make 200 or 300 of them a year. I can get out about one a day if I really work. If you look around here, I have a lot of good machinery, and I'm working on number 1209, I believe, today.
Oh, heck. And quickly about the price range, it's got a floating price range. It starts at what price?
Well, they start around $300 and go up to $1,200 or $1,500. I don't build real fancy dulcimers, but mine are high performance. They have a lot of sound, and that's why people buy them. It's not for how pretty they are, it's for the way they sound, their accuracy, sound and playability.
So you build the good ones?
I try to.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, David, for talking about
Mr. Dickey.
I want to talk a little bit about nut trees. A lot of times when it gets dry and we don't have enough moisture in the ground, a pecan tree or a hickory nut tree, it's going to drop some of its nuts off of there. That's a self-protective method it uses. It's just like a cotton plant. If a cotton plant gets too dry, it'll shed some of its bolls. Same difference with a pecan tree. And it'll shed some of the nuts off there, and it'll make what remaining nuts that's on there probably a little bit better quality. But if you can have the best of both worlds, if you'll just water them nuts trees before it starts getting real dry, before it starts shedding them nuts. Because once they done shed them, you're not going to do too much good to water. That don't mean don't water, still water. But that just goes to show you that it's dry around here, and they're shedding the nuts. A little water go a long way. We're here in Jonesboro, and here with me is Kenny Schwartz. And Kenny, why don't you tell me what's going on with your tree when you call me in?
Well, we were having trouble with woodpeckers, and the tree just wasn't looking as healthy as we wanted it to. And well, we want to kind of make the trees, as good as they can be and healthy as they can be, because we always like the shade and the insulation of them. So, primarily that.
Right. Well, when I got here, the camera will show us it's just riddled with the borer holes, and it's got the box elder beetles. This is a box elder tree, and of course the woodpecker, he's got a home in there too. And Kenny, this is one of y'all's rent properties, isn't it?
Yes, we own several rental properties here in Jonesboro. We live close by here, and this is one of them. And we wanted to kind of actually make the tree a lot healthier due to the fact of not having it to fall over or damage anything other than the house.
Right. And they take good care of their property here too. I'll tell you that. They're also having me put a bracing rod here through it because it's got a weak trunk here and it's subject to fall over, get ice on it or something like that. Off camera before, Kenny was talking about what you did. Tell the viewers what you do.
I drive truck for Walmart stores. I'm based out of Searcy, Arkansas.
How many years you been doing that?
Be 17 years in a couple of weeks.
We was talking earlier, you had a rider once or two on your trip. Out of surprise, wasn't it? Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was Mr. Sam Walton rode with me a couple of times, and he'd ride just about anywhere. If he showed up with a duffel bag, you knew he was going to go riding with somebody. So,
another comment you made, tell what he said that the drivers were to the Walmart company.
He always told us that the drivers were the eyes and ears of the company. We saw what was going on without any supervision, and we also heard what the people were talking about. So he always looked up to us and treated us, sometimes a little bit better than other people because we were the ones that would inform him about what was going on.
I never had heard that before. It makes a lot of sense. Well, Kenny, here after they've had this tree trimmed also too recently to get rid of all the dead and stuff, and they've had me treat this tree to get rid of the borers and to bring it back, and I'm putting a rod in it. Here in the future we'll come back and we'll see how this thing comes out.
Okay, we'll do it.
Well, thank you for talking about your tree.
Thank you much.
I've had a lot of people want to see how we put the bracing rods in a tree, and all you do it yourself or is at home. You need you a good drill bit, weld extension on it if it's a long ways to drill. But you can kind of watch how I'm doing this, and you might be able to do one at home and save a tree or two.
Daddy phoned to tell us that old tree might have to come down. The one I had the tree house in and chased my wife around. He said a neighbor showed him where it was busting at the trunk. And if the snow got heavy, it could crack down to the stump. We got to save our family tree. It's such a big part of our history. What a nostalgic sight to see. We got to save our family tree. Grandpa said they planted it when he was just 8 years old. His mama kept the clods broke up while his daddy dug the hole. I phoned up a friend of mine that lives in our hometown. He said he knew a tree doctor didn't like to cut trees down. The man went out and checked our tree and bolted it back together. He said it would last a lifetime, no matter what the weather. We got to save our family tree. It's such a big part of our history. What a nostalgic sight to see. We got to save our family tree. Yes, we got to save our family tree.
Well, as you can see, you can work up a little bit of sweat doing that if you do it right. We always try to do it right. But maybe you picked up some tips on how to do it yourself if you can't afford to have us do it. But that tree will remain together for a long, long time. In fact, when it dies, it'll still be together. So that rod is rated for 50,000 pounds, and that's quite a bit of rating. I'm here with Kenny Schwartz, and Kenny, you just watched me put that rod through that tree. What do you think?
I think that'll give her quite a few more years of life in her. It'll hold it together anyway.
Yes, sir. And make you feel a little more secure when that old wind gets up, won't it?
Oh, yeah. It'll make me feel a lot more secure.
All right. Appreciate you letting us do the job, and we'll come back here later on and see how that's doing when this tree's come out and everything.
Okay. We'll look forward to it.
Thank you. I'm here with Sue and Don Carver, and they're standing behind them is a big old hickory here. And Miss Carver, why don't you tell me what made you call me in about this hickory?
Well, we wanted to save the tree. It's the only decent tree we've got on the lot and gives us good shade.
Yes, ma'am. This was in, when was that? 2004, I think.
It was 2004. We just built the house, and we just wanted the tree to stay as long as it could.
And Don, you're the handyman here about the trimming and stuff. What was going on in your mind about that time?
Well, we were just losing limbs off the tree. We're just falling for no seem to be reason. We're just dropping down, and we're having to pick it up, and some of the limbs weren't looking good that came down. The boars were cutting it, so we were concerned that we were going to lose the tree here after we spent all the time trying to save it from the construction when they built the house.
That's right. And at that time, I had told them they needed a bracing rod in through there, but the tree at that time was too weak to support one. And Don was the handyman of it, and you put that in there, did you, Don?
Yes, I did. I got the rod the size that you said to get and scrounged around and got parts and pieces and put the rod in there.
I like the statement Miss Carver told me about that. What did you say about his handiwork, Miss Carver?
I said I'd rather had you do it, but he wanted to do it, and it cost me what I thought twice as much as for him to do it.
Yeah, but it's worth something having him do it, isn't it, Don?
That's right.
Yeah.
But the main thing is he did a good job, and he got this tree. We'll move around here with a camera maybe when I hope you can see it here with it coming through on this side, but it had a weak place here, and their home is right here. So I think the tree is putting on new growth and doing good now, isn't it, Miss Carver?
It looks good. It does look a lot better.
And Don, you've been doing a little maintenance spraying since it's got...
Sprayed like you said. You put the treatment around the bottom, and then this March I put the spray on it up along the tree there, and then we're going to do it again in November to spray it, trying to keep the bugs going up the tree.
Yeah, and keeping them from getting in it. And I think we got it heading on the right direction. It's been a couple of years now, and looks a whole lot better than it did, don't it, Miss Carver?
It's so much thicker, we noticed that the shade under it's gotten thicker and heavier.
And boy, we need it today. It's 103 out here, in case y'all people don't know at home. That's why I'm sweating like this. But you got to film when you can film. And I appreciate y'all for getting out in this heat and talking about it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm here with James Young in Batesville. And James, you got roots protruding out of the ground here. And how are you going to remedy this in the future?
We're going to get some dirt and fill in along both sides of the root to get it kind of leveled off, and then we're going to get some sod that matches our existing grass and put over the top of that. That way when they mow over it, they won't be hitting the root.
Right, because right now when the tire goes over it, it just flop, and but if you build that up a little and then lay that sod, you don't have to hurt the tree by cutting the roots, and you'll never know that little bit of bulge. You'll never see it anyway, will you?
No, it sure won't. It'll look great.
All right, so people out there that's got them roots sticking up, instead of taking an axe and cutting them out, add you a little bit of topsoil. And if you can, put you some sod. If you can't, just let the grass grow. But either way, you'll keep that lawnmower tire from every time going over it, going deeper and deeper, especially if the ground's wet, and it'll be good for your tree.
Scuff the tops of your roots there. Yeah. And keep it from scuffing the tops of them roots if you got it leveled off that way.
Right, because he's already hitting it here. So that's how you take care of these roots that's sticking out of the ground. You know, great strides have been made in the chemical community as the technology come available now where you don't need to clumber some capsules to tree, and we can put actually 9 or 10 different products at one time in a tree. You can see it boiling out from around the base of that as I'm injecting this into the soil ball. Amino acids, different miticides, insecticides. We can choose what we want to treat for, and we get a long residual from this. So you get a year's worth of good or longer out of our injection when we do a tree. An actual molt of chemicals put around your tree, and it's all moisture activated. So as the weather hits it or the rain, it supercharges it again and carries through the tree. So to get rid of your unwanted insects or to revive a tree to put new life in it, you know, that's what we do. We put the zap back in the sap. We give new life to old trees. That's what we do. We're the tree doctors. Dickey Tree Service in your yellow pages under trees.
Well, that's all the time we have for Tree Doctors today. Thank you so much for joining us. If you need to get in touch with Ed, it's simple. You can go to dickeytree.com or call the number below. Thanks again. We'll see you next time on Tree Doctors.